So this morning, we're going to talk about abortion, but I want to start by, just let me make sure all this is working before I get into it. Yeah, awesome. You know, I realized last night that I've mentioned the word apologetics a number of times, and I'm not sure if we're familiar with what apologetics is, so I'd like to kind of just start out there and see where we get as far as the issue of abortion. Apologetics is from the word apologia in the New Testament. 1 Peter 3:15 is a verse that I think I've probably quoted and cited, at least kind of thrown it out there into the ether for you. And it means to make a reasoned defense of the Christian worldview. It means to argue, not be argumentative, but to argue for the validity, the truthfulness, truthiness, which is actually a word now, by the way. Anyways, the truthfulness of the Christian worldview. And we're all Christian apologists to a certain extent. Just because like I have a degree or I do things, you know, on big stages or whatever, and get paid to do it, doesn't mean I'm any better than anybody in this room or more special, or that we're not all called to the same thing. We're all called to be ambassadors for Christ. We're all called to be Christian apologists, to make a case out in the public sphere and in your spheres of influence for the validity of the Christian worldview. And it all stems from 1 Peter 3. And I'm going to pick up in verse 13. It says, "Who is there to harm you if you prove zealous for what's good? But even if you should suffer for the sake of righteousness, you are blessed. And do not fear their intimidation, and do not be troubled, but sanctify Christ as Lord in your heart, always being ready to make a defense to anyone who asks you to give an account." And that's where it is right there, to make a defense. That's apologia, to make a defense to anyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with, and this is really important, especially for our conversation this morning, yet with gentleness and reverence, and keep a good conscience, so that the thing in which you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ, we put to shame. So we're going to do some pro-life apologetics this morning to offer reasons why the pro-life position is the better position. Not subjective, we're going to get into the subjective and objective, but it's actually, the pro-life position is better when we look at reality, and we have good reasons to believe it is true. And it's not just a matter of personal opinion. It's not just true for you and not for your parents or your friends, but it's true for everybody in an objective sense. So let's just, let's kind of dive in here. Oh, sorry. You guys. Okay. So, this is an absolutely vital time for us to be talking about this issue and the issue last night, especially in the wake of the Dobes v. Mississippi decision. Have you guys all read about Dobes? And so the Supreme Court ruled in this case Dobes v. Mississippi, and in effect, what happened is it overruled the Roe v. Wade mandate for abortion on demand. So for the first time since, and it didn't make abortion illegal, it didn't change any state laws, let's be clear, but for the first time what it did is it brought this issue of abortion back to the state level the first time since 1973. So now is actually when our battle begins. I see a lot of pro-life folks and a lot of people in our camp celebrating, which I think we couldn't celebrate a big win. It's a big win for life. But now is when our battle starts. It's just started. So now it's kind of like, the way I look at it is we were like hiding out in kind of the bunker of the battle because like the enemy was just shooting at us. Well, now they've been pushed back, and now we're kind of on neutral ground, at least as far as the law is concerned. So now when things get turned over to the states, we can actually have a dramatic impact as we argue and offer a defense for the people in our culture that are the most vulnerable. I mean, we just read that verse of rich versus poor, right? I mean, that status isn't, the financial status doesn't lend meaning to somebody. Well, we're going to see that just because a human being is in his or her mother's womb they still have value. So we need to learn how to speak with authority on this issue. We need to learn how to speak well about this issue, and we need to learn how not to be fearful when speaking these ideas, because oftentimes I feel like we succumb to cultural pressures. We're afraid of getting canceled. We're afraid of losing friends. We're afraid of upsetting people or each other even. So we need to learn how to develop an artful craft of pro-life apologetics. So today we're going to examine the abortion issue in the hopes of leaving here with just some tools to better understand the issue, but then also to make the case and defend life in a way that brings more light than heat into a conversation. That, if you guys haven't noticed over the last couple of days, that's like really my goal is always to address people as people. You know, just to separate the issue, the arguments from the person. And the more we practice, the more we can get into that, I think the more impact that we can have, because then we don't get upset. And we're going to get into that in a second. So we're going to examine these issues, and then we can fight the battle with a better chance of success. You know, so there are three building blocks that we're going to build on before we can really address the issue itself. And the first one is apologetics. It's an amazing tool, because what it does is it allows us to lift ideas up into the abstract. And that's what I was just talking about, where I can separate the person and the value of the person and the ideas. So the ideas that are like out floating around, I can address the ideas without having to become emotional or mean-spirited or anything like this or feel like I'm being attacking towards a person. And the same is true in reverse, where when people are attacking and addressing my ideas, I don't need to get offended, because they're my ideas. They're not me personally. You know, we can ask in the context of Christian apologetics, do the ideas out in the world accurately reflect the reality? Do the ideas that the world is telling us, that the ideas that are out there, do they accurately describe the world as it really is? Or is it something else? Or does it not line up with reality? But I can't stress this enough with you guys. We can't forget that second part of 1 Peter 3:15, that we always do it with gentleness and reverence, with kindness, with respect towards people. Our battle is ideas, not people. And I want to also acknowledge here that there's nothing easy about this topic. I come to this topic with a great sense of humility, with respect, with a genuine kind of brokenheartedness, because I know that this issue very well could have perhaps affected some people in this room. It certainly has affected the people that some people that we care about, and I don't want to add offense to you, and I want everybody here, I want to be very, very clear that just like homosexuality, abortion isn't like the sin. It's not the unpardonable sin, for sure. There is forgiveness in Christ for any sin, past, present, and future, including abortion. And if this is something that you've wrestled with and that you're currently wrestling with, I want to encourage you to talk to one of the leaders here. And because abortion is one of those things, guys, that what we've done is, even in the corners of our church, we've relegated the issue to the dark corners, and we haven't allowed the gospel's light to actually shine on it. And I know this from personal experience, because when I was a pastor at Living Oaks Church, which is a bigger church, this is an issue I'm very passionate about. And I brought it to the church, and I tried to start, and I did start a ministry that the ministry is focused on offering healing to women and men who have had abortions. So people, oftentimes we forget that other component, that oftentimes in our audience and the people that we're talking to, the reason why they're so maybe affected, or the reason why they're so into the issue, is because they've had an abortion or they've had to wrestle with this themselves. And when I started this program to receive healing, No Longer Bound is what it's called, it was insane what happened. I had people come out of the woodwork, women. There was a woman in our church who was on staff at the church for 10 years. And she had had 3 abortions before she had been 35. She was in her 60s, and she never told anybody. Ever. And then when we started this, I remember that morning, she came into my office one morning and shut my door. I was like, hey, can we talk? And I thought I was in trouble. And she's like, I need to talk to you about something that you can't share with anybody until I figure it out. And she confessed that she had had 3 abortions when she was a young woman. And actually, the tragic part for her, what she was really trying to work through wasn't just the abortions, but it was also that after that 3rd abortion, she was never able to have children of her own anymore. So it was like kind of a double whammy for her, but nobody knew, not even her closest friends. So she ended up giving her testimony on Sunday morning and getting the healing and going through this process. So anyways, I'm saying all this because I know that this issue is an emotional one. And I'm not unaware of that. And I want you to know that there's forgiveness in Christ for the issue of abortion. There's help for you. And in the future, if you find yourself in a position where you don't know what to do, I'm hoping that this moment in time comes back to your mind and you choose to do very hard things. I'm not saying choosing an abortion isn't hard, but maybe a harder thing is to choose life and understand that the Church of Jesus Christ is here for you, and we want to love you. So is that clear up front? It's super heavy topic for 9 o'clock in the morning. I know, you're welcome. So there's nothing easy here for us this morning. The second building block is what I was just kind of saying, that the battle that we're fighting is a battle of ideas. It's not necessarily issue, right? So the battle, I think, is oftentimes where we don't expect it to be. The battle being fought is over ideas, not just abortion. The issue, it's important, but behind the positions pro-life and pro-choice, there are ideas. And I said it last night. It's a quote. I think it's on the screen. Yeah. Ideas have consequences. This is John Stonestreet. He says ideas have consequences and bad ideas have victims. And the battle of abortion is a battle over ideas. And we get our marching orders on how we approach this topic from Paul in 2 Corinthians 10, starting in verse 3. We mentioned this last night as well. For though we live in the world, we do not wage battle as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Notice, guys, that our battle is with the ideas. I can't stress this enough. It's not the people. It's not even really the issue. It's the ideas. It's the false ideas that have been brought to our culture. And there's an awful idea that's taken root in our culture. And that's that there's a certain segment of the population, there's a certain group of human beings that don't matter as much as other human beings. This isn't a new idea, if we think about it. You guys are reading your Bibles now, right? I mean, in ancient Egypt, there was slavery, because people viewed another set of human beings as lower or subhuman or not as valuable. In ancient Rome, they practiced infanticide. If a baby was born with any type of deformity or maybe underweight, even just underweight, do you guys know they would pitch the baby into just an open pit? And do you know who went and saved those babies, by the way? That's right, Christians. Christians would go to the least of these throughout the entirety of Christendom, would go to the least of these, pulling them out of the rubble and the rubbish, dusting them off, feeding them, clothing them, loving them, and raising them. To be ambassadors for Christ, to be warriors for Christ. In the United States, we've had slavery, awful slavery in the South, and then Jim Crow as late as the 60s. The racism continues even today. We have modern day slavery through sex trafficking and stuff like this that's happening all over the world. Yes, even in our cities that we're from, sex trafficking is happening. And it stems from this bad idea that there are certain people that aren't as valuable as other people, so we can make them victims, so we can use them as commodities or view them as somehow less than human being. We see it in our schools. Some of us in our midst here that have been bullied. This is where bullying stems from, and I'm hoping that in our lives here at this place, it doesn't happen in Joshua, because we view people as infinitely valuable. Why are people valuable? They're made in the image of God. That's right. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping that you guys treat each other with reverence and kindness and respect and not bully each other. And this is the same thing that's happens not with just bullying and slavery and sex trafficking and all of this stuff, infanticide, but also there's an idea that has resulted in abortions because we view a certain segment of human beings as being less valuable than others. And this is the idea that we're going to wrestle with today, and that's kind of the second building block. The third building block here has to do with truth. And the culture today, what they do is, what happens is, and I address this in my Q&A a little bit, is we've come to view moral truth claims, moral claims as to what is right and wrong, oughtness claims as subjective, as merely personal opinion. So when we say abortion is wrong, what you hear is, oh, I think abortion is wrong. But when I say abortion is wrong, no, I say it's wrong in all places at all times to take the life of an innocent human being. And it's not just a matter of personal preference here. It's a matter of what's true and accurately reflects reality. The culture, like I said today, confuses moral claims with preference claims. And this is the difference here. It's subjective truth versus objective truth. So subjective truth tells us more about the subject, about me, than it does about the object, the thing I'm making a claim for. It's a truth that you create. You hear it today as like, you do you, boo. You do you, I'll do me. Like that's a subjective claim, and it deals with personal preferences. It's like favorite flavor of ice cream. Yesterday and the day before, we got milkshakes down at the snack place down there. Right? And we spend more time arguing over what flavor to get than actually enjoying the milkshakes. So my wife likes mint chip milkshakes. If she says mint chip milkshakes are the best, does it make sense for you or I to say, well, no, you're wrong? Well, no, because she's saying my personal opinion, I like mint chip the best. Like, I think it's the best. So it doesn't make sense for me to be like, oh, well, you're wrong there, as opposed to an objective claim. And they're all, by the way, subjective claims are all equally valid. And that adds more mud to the situation of abortion, because when they hear the abortion issue discussed, oftentimes people think it's a subjective claim, and that means all positions are equally valid. You just do you. Right? And then there's objective truth that tells you about the object, the ice cream, not the person that's talking about the ice cream. And we see this in relation to something like diabetes. I met a young woman yesterday who was leaving here because she was going to get some diabetes. Is she here, or did she leave? Okay, good. I hope that she's well. I hope somebody's in touch with her. Good. And so she's got diabetes. Now, if she went to her doctor and she was going down the hill to pick up her medicine because she's not feeling well, and the doctor gave her a pint of mint chip ice cream, is that a good doctor or a bad doctor? That's a horrible doctor. Why? Because it'll kill her, and so here is a perfect distinction of what the separation between objective truth and subjective truth. The doctor might love mint chip ice cream, but he's not going to prescribe it. Like, that's a subjective opinion. He's not going to prescribe it because the objective nature of diabetes requires something altogether different. It requires insulin. So are you guys kind of picking up what I'm throwing down here? And I'm going to draw it all together, because objective claims too, by the way, I want to point out they can be true or false. So if I say 2 + 2 is 5, it's an objective claim. The way I think about it, even though it's wrong, the way I think about it is it's either true or false. So for example, John is wearing I'm wearing a hot pink t-shirt right now. Objective or subjective claim? Why is it objective? It's either true or false. I'm not. We already did mint chips. The best vacations include snowboarding. Subjective. Why is it subjective?
Because not everyone likes snowboarding.
Because not everybody likes snowboarding. It's a matter of personal opinion. Jesus is God. Subjective or objective? Objective. He is either God or he is not. It's not a matter of my personal opinion, right? How I feel about the divinity of Christ doesn't change his nature. Does that make sense? So these things are important. Abortion is wrong. Objective or subjective? Objective. Objective. I hope so. I've been saying this the whole morning, but you notice there was a pause, because even now some of us are still wrestling with this. Wait a second, but he's saying He's saying it's a moral claim, but moral claims are just a matter of personal opinion. No, when I make a moral claim, I am making a claim about the existence of reality, the way things really are. Rape is wrong, no matter how I feel about it. Oppression is wrong. Slavery is wrong. Abortion is wrong. It's the same thing. Just replace abortion with slavery and it becomes all of a sudden very clear in my mind. Right? Nobody in this room, I hope, nobody in this room is going to argue that owning another human being is appropriate if you feel like it's appropriate. Well, the same is true for abortion. Because anyways, we're going to get to all this, I'm hoping. There'll be a miracle. So in our culture, morality is framed subjectively. Morality is something that you create. And I'm saying that is not true. Morality is a fundamental feature of the world around us. I said this this was the bump of bad as an atheist that I bumped into on the first night we talked about it. And it's not something that we create. And this is also why, you guys, this here is why when we start talking about moral claims, people take it personally because they feel like you're talking about them. They feel like you're talking about like them as a person, as a human being, because it's part of them. They've made it part of their reality. It's what they've created. But that's not what we're talking about. It's an objective part of reality. And then this is why they feel attacked when we address moral issues, because in their minds, the claim is subjective. It's about them personally, but it's not. And when we make moral claims or value claims, we're not talking about ourselves. It's not about our personal preferences. So when we talk about abortion issue, we're talking about objective truth claims, and the issues are not subjective. And this allows us, when we really own this understanding of it, allows us to enter into this conversation kind of devoid of we don't need to feel personally attacked. Because when people press into us on this issue, they're pressing into the ideas, like that first building block, apologetics. We get to lift these ideas up kind of in the ether and toss them around and look at them, and we don't need to take it personally because it's not a personal claim. It's an objective claim. So with these things in our mind, I want to talk about how we as ambassadors for Christ can make the world a safer place for the most vulnerable human beings in our society and in our culture. And I want you, if you're taking notes, guys, this is going to be foundational. It all comes down to one question. There's only one question. There are a ton, you guys have heard them, there are a ton of reasons why people justify abortion. Abortion's a decision. You're going to hear this all the time. Abortion's a decision between a woman and her doctor and her God. Making abortion illegal will force women into dangerous back alley abortions. Women should have a right to choose. Who are we to judge? These decisions aren't made lightly, and women labor over these difficult choices. Sometimes it's the most difficult choice a woman will ever have to make. All of these things are completely and logically correct. All of them. We shouldn't interfere between a woman and her doctor and her God. We shouldn't force a woman into dangerous back alley abortions. We shouldn't take away a woman's right to choose. We shouldn't judge the difficult nature of a situation and place judgment on that woman. And I think that this might surprise you what I'm saying, right? That these are all logically and correct, and they're true. Like people are right when they say these things. If. And the question is what's the if? What do I mean if? What? That answer depends upon the answer to another question, which I can illustrate through something that happens in real life that simplifies this issue down. So, say I'm on a hike here. They're awesome. Say I'm on a hike. And Eva, she's my 12-year-old. Hey, Eva. She loves it when I use her as an example. Say we're hiking, and I'm up a little bit ahead of them, and I'm kind of like enjoying the peaceful serenity of the Hume Lake surroundings. And I hear Eva go, can I kill it? Get it off me. Can I kill it? Can I kill it? Can I kill it? Get it off of me. Now, how do I respond to that? Who said it? What is it? Right? If it's a spider, kill it. right? If it's a net, I'm not going to probably want to kill it. You know? If it's a snake, maybe I'll come over and kill it. Probably not, but maybe I will, you know? But the question is what is it? Before we can answer the question, can I kill it, we have to know what it is that we want to kill, right? You know, this illustration, it teaches us a very, very important lesson. We got to know what we're killing before we can know whether or not it's right or wrong to kill it. And this is true in our discussion as well. The question is, this is the fundamental question, is what is the unborn? You see, in abortion involves the killing and discarding something that's alive. And oftentimes, okay, so we're going to hear, oh, well, nobody knows when life begins. This is nonsense. How do I know it's nonsense? And I claim that every single person who says this knows it's nonsense. Because the thing that is inside the mother's womb is growing. Only living things grow. And that's the problem. If left to its own devices without the abortion, the woman is going to be left with a child. And that's what she's trying to avoid through having an abortion. Do you understand this? Is this making sense? So the objection that's not living doesn't make any sense. Of course it's living. Of course, we all know it's living. Whether it's right or not to take the life of any living being depends entirely upon how we answer this next question: what kind of being is it? What is the unborn? If the unborn's not a human being, guys, then there's no issue here. If it's just merely a clump of cells, then by all means, get rid of it. If it's the equivalent of a wart or a mole or something like this, then get rid of it. You know, that's not an issue. If the unborn's not a human being, no justification for abortion is necessary. But if the unborn is a human being, no justification for abortion is adequate. You know, all we need to do is answer one simple question: what is the unborn? You know, and then most defenses of abortion sidestep this question. No, they attempt to justify abortion simply assuming that the unborn's not a human being. Choice, privacy, financial hardship, the unwantedness. They're valid reasons if it's not a human being, but if it's not, they're not valid reasons to kill an unborn human being. If the unborn is a human being just like you and just like me, then you can't kill her or him for the same reasons you can't kill a born human being. That's why we have to answer the first question: what's the unborn? Then that's why this is where you should stick. When you're talking to people out in your life and they're taking a pro-choice position, this is the question you stick on: what's the unborn? Because if the unborn is a human being, you can't just kill it because you choose to. You know, if the unborn's a human being, just like you and me, you can't kill them as long as we do it in private. You can't kill them as long as they're not affordable or they're not wanted anymore. You can't kill it if you decide that life is going to be very difficult because of this human being. You know, and we don't want to get sidetracked here with these topics. Otherwise, what happens is people throw out these objections and we spend hours debating things that don't matter. What matters here is what is the unborn. And here's a tactic that you can use next time someone, I love this, next time someone tries to offer any of these many justifications for abortion. It's called trotting out the toddler. And it involves 3 steps, okay? The point first of the tactic is to funnel all of these different arguments towards this one question: what's the unborn? And it's simple. What we do is we listen to the reason offered to justify abortion, and then we ask if it's okay to kill a toddler in the same circumstances. And then the third step is simply to clarify that the real issue isn't what they're saying, but it's what's the unborn. And note here that you're not arguing yet that the unborn is a human being, by the way. We're going to get to that. So let's take a look at some examples here. Okay, women have a right to privacy. Okay, So the question that I'm going to ask when somebody says, well, we have a right to privacy. What a woman does in their doctor's office isn't our business. She has a right to privacy. Well, do we allow a woman to kill her 2-year-old son as long as it's done in the privacy of her doctor's office or her own home? Do we? No. So the issue isn't privacy. The issue is what's the unborn, right? This is going to get clear for you guys, okay? We should have the freedom to choose. I think so too. I have 4 daughters. I think that throughout their life they should have the freedom to choose everything and anything. They should be able to choose. But do you think a woman should have the right to choose to kill her 3-year-old son because she wants to? No, so the issue really isn't the right to choice. The issue is what's the unborn? Right? What's the unborn? And here, notice the right to choice. This objection, it pushes the issue into the subjective category, like we talked about up front. You know, it's just a matter of personal choice. This means that you can't be wrong. This is just my opinion. That's the convenient nature of the subjective component of abortion. When we push it into the subjective realm, the upper story of reality, we can't be wrong. It's just a matter of personal preference. But is it just a matter of personal preference for me to kill my 5-year-old daughter? No, because that's not the issue. The issue is what's the unborn. Next, many poor people can't afford another child. What do you think I'm going to say to this? Not even. I don't even need to go there.
Is it all right for a mother to abandon a child if she's poor?
Yes. Is it acceptable for me to kill my 4-year-old daughter because all of a sudden not even all of a sudden, because I'm now in financial hardship and having one less mouth to feed will solve the issue? Is it okay for me to take that life?
No.
So the issue isn't financial. The issue is what's the unborn. Do you see what I'm doing here? Is this making sense? How about this one? An unwanted child should not be forced to come into the world. What's my response going to be? Exactly. What's the answer to that question? I mean, any sane person, if I don't want one of my kids, I mean, my kids sometimes are hard. Not Eva, she's perfect. She's perfect. But some of my other kids, man, are they up there too? No. Just because I don't want my kid anymore, is it okay for me to kill my kid? No, of course not. So the issue isn't the wantedness of the child. The issue is what's the unborn? There's more and more examples of these. How about this one? This one breaks my heart. I have a sister-in-law who's now, oh my gosh, she's probably almost 40, who with Downs. Look how cute that baby is, right? Adorable. We abort 90% of Down syndrome children in this country for no other reason than they have Down syndrome. That should break our hearts. A child with Down syndrome or any other condition shouldn't have to suffer through life. Well, is it permissible for me to take the life of my Down syndrome toddler? No, of course not. Then the issue isn't Down syndrome or any other infirmity or disease or abnormality. The issue is what's the unborn? You know, because as far as I can tell, we got to show that the unborn are human beings, and the science of embryology here is absolutely clear. I'm not appealing to scripture. I'm not appealing to religion. Embryology proves that the unborn is a living being. It's alive, a unique individual being, different from the mother, and a human being, not a potential human or some other type of being. A new human life comes into existence at conception. A new life comes into existence when 2 cells meet, an egg and a sperm, and something amazing happens. At that moment in time, this isn't religion, guys, this is science. At that moment in time, a new human being, unique, that'll never exist again, is created. It has its own blood type already decided, that which is crazy to me, because it's growing inside the mother, connected to the mother, but it has its own blood type. It's already decided whether it's going to be a male or a female. Its eye color is already decided. Its hair color. It's how tall it's going to be. All of it is there already. It's a unique human being. There is no period of non-life. The unborn is growing. And all that needs to happen is for that living being to continue to grow, and it's exactly where it needs to be in order to do that. It meets all the biological, by the way, criteria for life. It's growing, it responds to stimuli, and it metabolizes nutrients. It eats even at its youngest thing, right? It's constant. I watched this awesome documentary by National Geographic, which is not a Christian source, but National Geographic in the womb. And one of the facts that it stated, if the fetus, if the life inside the mom continued to grow at the rate that it did during the first couple weeks of cell multiplication and development, by the time it was born, it'd be the size of the sun. All of you ladies are like, I am never giving birth. No, that's true because it's growing so rapidly. It's growing so rapidly. Its cells are dividing and multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. If it continued to grow at that rate, by the end of 9 months, it'd be the size of the sun. Luckily, it slows down. But that's like just really cool to me. But this is a fundamental sign of life. This is how we know. This is why when we search for life out in the sky, these are the things that we look for. But when we have it here in the womb, we discredit it. A new human life comes into existence at the moment of conception. The unborn is a unique individual being. We kind of touched on this just a second ago. Not merely a part of the mother's body. It's got its own fingerprints, its own DNA, its own circulatory system. Like, how does that even work? And we know it's unique, it's separate from the mom's body because if the mom is pregnant with a boy, the boy has boy parts. So it makes no sense for us to say the mom has a penis for 9 months. The mom doesn't have 4 hands and 4 feet and 2 brains. It's a completely individual, it's a separate being. Different brain functions. The unborn can be conceived outside the mother's body, but we still know it's a life. That's funny. If we do this, if we do these experiments with embryos, we know that what we're creating is life. But all of a sudden we put it inside the mother's body. I mean, these embryos were worth tens of thousands of dollars. But then all of a sudden we implant it in the mom, and it's up to the mom to decide, or the couple to decide whether or not that's a human being. No, this isn't how it works. So the unborn is living, it's unique, it's human. How do we know it's human? Well, it's not a hamster. It's not a dolphin. You know what I mean? It's not a silverback gorilla. It's a human being. This is common sense stuff, guys. And this is what they teach in embryology class in medical school too, by the way. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a unique human being. So let's turn to some of those textbooks. You guys say, oh, well, I can take your word for it. Fine. Call me a liar. Keith Moore, Before We Were Born. This is a textbook that's used in modern medical classes around the country, around the world. This zygote, he's talking about zygote, formed by the union of an I can never pronounce these right, oocyte, and a sperm. That's an egg and a sperm, is the beginning of a new human being. It's the beginning of a new human being. This isn't me. Here's another one. Although life is a continuous process, fertilization is a critical landmark because under ordinary circumstances, a new, genetically distinct what? Human organism is formed when the chromosomes of the male and the female, whatever, blend and in the whatever. I'm not a doctor. You don't need to be a doctor to understand this. This is like we just read. I got more. Perhaps the most straightforward. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, I removed a bunch of slides. That's good though. That's good. Okay. So this is a hard part, and I want to know if we should do it. I think we need to let the unborn testify for themselves. So what I'd like to show you is a 90-second video of abortion. Now, I want to invite you, if you don't want to see this, there's no shame in that. Feel free to get up and go into the classroom or the kitchen. There's no sound. Maybe have some background music with no narration. You know what? I'll even turn the sound all the way down. Feel free to close your eyes as we watch this. It's graphic and it's heartbreaking, but I think it's important. So feel free. Is that okay? If anybody, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes. If anybody wants to leave, I'll give you guys. Is anybody going to leave? No. My kids left, I hope. They hate this. I hate this. I don't even like thinking about it. So, this is abortion, guys. That's it. If you close your eyes, you can open them. It's awful. But that's why we have to be talking about this. Because it's not just a clump of cells. I've seen this video hundreds of times. And I still cry when I see it because it's like, I see the faces of my daughters. I see you in this. And I mean, those earlier pictures are from 5, 6, 7 weeks after fertilization. Oftentimes, the mom doesn't even know she's pregnant yet. But we're told it's just a clump of cells. The key question is, what is the unborn? In our culture today, we're being lied to. And we're not taking this issue seriously like I think we ought to. It's very sad. You know, it's interesting. Some people get concerned about the use of these types of images because they know what it shows. Naomi Wolf, she says, how can we change that this is a vile, and she's a pro-life advocate. How can we charge that this is a vile and repulsive, it is revile and repulsive for pro-lifers to brandish vile and repulsive images if the images are real? To insist that truth is in poor taste is the very height of hypocrisy. Besides, if these images were often the facts of the matter, and if we then claim that it is offensive for pro-choice women to be confronted by them, then we're making a judgment that women are too inherently weak to face the truth about what they have to make a grave decision about. This view is unworthy of feminism, is what Naomi Wolf said. Even Naomi Wolf claims that we should be using these images because abortion is a thing. It's heartbreaking, but we should be heartbroken about it. So the question is what is the unborn? It's a unique, living human being. So we've seen that this is the only question that we should be asking. Now, we have to show that human beings are valuable. And I think that we can do that. And I'm going to argue that all human beings are valuable. You know, some people are going to say that we should be able to kill this child even though we know it's a human being because they want to take humanness and separate from personhood. And this is nothing but a legal trick. What people are arguing for, what most people are arguing for now is that there has to be something added to a human being in order for it to be valuable. This, by the way, is the same argument that was used to justify slavery in the South. The same argument to justify slavery in the South. You know, what's the difference between a human and a person? And this is, by the way, a question that they have to answer, not us. So when somebody next time they talk to you about this and say, oh yeah, it's a human being, but it's not a person yet, then you say, What is it that happens to that unborn human being that all of a sudden makes it a person and therefore valuable? We don't have to answer that because we're not the one that making the claim. We're making a better claim. We're making the claim that the human being is valuable just in light of being a human being. There's nothing that has to be done in order to gain value. Because that human being, from the moment of conception to the moment it dies naturally outside of the womb, is made in the image of God. It's a great equalizer. So why should anyone accept that the idea that there's such a thing as a human who's not a person? Well, there's 4 reasons that people use to justify this, and we're going to go through this quickly. I'll be done hopefully in 5 minutes here for you. This is a fantastic tactic and something to memorize, guys. It's the sled test. So our culture tells us that we have to add something to human life in order for it to become a person and therefore valuable. And it's one of usually one of these 4 reasons. SLED, S-L-E-D, S, size, L, level of development, E, environment, D, degree of dependency. And we can sidestep these issues, we can tackle these issues if we just go one by one. Here's a picture of the tallest living man in the world next to the shortest living man in the world. Which human being is more valuable? Neither. Both of them are equal. That's right. Because a person's height or size, I'm a big guy. I'm bigger than most of you in this room. Am I more or less valuable because of my size? No. So it's not the size of something that gives it value. Therefore, a human being that is a single cell in the mother's womb at that moment of conception, why are we saying that it's somehow less valuable? Because it's in the womb? Well, that's environment. Level of development. Right? My girls here, that's Phoebe and Eva. Eva is clearly more developed than Phoebe. Is she more valuable than Phoebe? No. Then why is it that when we look at things in the womb, a human being in the womb, and we say they're less developed, they're at a different stage in life, do we say that it's less valuable? We don't. It doesn't make sense to say that. A person's value is not defined by their abilities either, because that's oftentimes what we mean by level of development. What he or she can or cannot do. We don't forfeit our rights and our dignity as human persons because we don't have the capabilities that other people do, that other people who are more mature do. You know, if for example, a child can no longer play chess or run bases or read or even remember certain things, we don't say they're less valuable. If a child is born without the CIPA disease is an infirmity that people are born with where they can't feel pain. It's a horrible thing to live with. Sometimes I think, wow, that'd be great, but you don't know if you break your leg or you're leaning against a hot stove before your flesh melts. You don't feel pain. Oftentimes people are going to tell you that it's not a human being and it's not a person because it can't feel pain. Well, what about the person outside of the womb? What about the fact that I have a really high pain tolerance? What hurts me would kill my kids. But am I more valuable because I have a higher pain threshold than my children do? No, of course not. Of course not. Human beings have value. Our value transcends our ability or a lack of ability to do certain things. Therefore, missing abilities can't disqualify them from human being. And this is the key point here. If a human being's value is determined by his or her abilities, by what they can or cannot do, then every single person who's handicapped or has a learning disability or a speech impediment, watch out. Watch out, because the logical implications of this view is that you're less valuable than someone like me who's perfect. I'm not perfect. No. That's not how we decide value. So size and physical appearance are irrelevant. The significance level of development has nothing to do with value. What about environment? Do humans forfeit their worth when they change locations? Am I more or less valuable in this room than when I go outside of this room? No. Then why is a baby more valuable outside of the womb than inside of the womb? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. This is the lunacy of our age. It's insane. Heroic measures were taken to save my nephew's life, Jasper's life. Those hospital bills are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because we realize that life has value, and it's not something that I think that the life has value. No, everybody in that room and everybody in that hospital knows that life has value. But given a different set of circumstances, it's completely legal and acceptable for somebody to abort that baby. But we'll go through heroic measures to save it in one instance. When the baby's wanted? No. Just because the baby is outside of the womb doesn't give it more or less value. That's environment. What about degree of dependency? That's Nick. You guys, some of you, I think I mentioned him earlier. You guys know who Nick is. Nick Vujicic is a really good friend of mine, great guy. He's got no arms and legs, obviously. That's him surfing. He depends on somebody for everything. He's got no arms and legs. He can't eat. He can't cook his own food. He can't go to the bathroom by himself. He can't drive a car. He can't do anything apart from help. Is he more or less valuable because of it? Of course not. Of course not. The dependency, if dependency determines worth, then no moral principle protects the weak and the vulnerable from the strong and powerful. Might makes right. If that's the issue. If that's the issue. So degree of dependency has nothing to do with moral worth. You see, all human beings are valuable. And this is where I'm going to end because you guys have class in like 10 minutes. The size and physical appearance are irrelevant to significance. Level of development has nothing to do with value. Environment, where you are residing at one point in time has no bearing on who you are or how valuable you are. And degree of dependency or viability has nothing to do with determining your worth. This is the sled test. So neither size nor level of development nor environment nor degree of dependency changes what the unborn is. A precious human being. Precious human beings are being killed every single day because they're in the way and they can't defend themselves. And this has to be stopped, guys. Like this, we need to put an end to it. We need to abolish abortion and make the case out there for human life. It's important. Friends, as I leave you this week, I have to get on the road like right after this. You aren't valuable because of a function that you perform or how conscious you are or whether you can feel pain or any other extrinsic value. You're valuable, and I've been saying it the last 4 days because you're made in the image of God. Value systems use these things like degree of dependency and all this stuff to measure a human worth. But it puts forth a very bad idea that some human beings are actually more worthy of life than other human beings. And there's serious victims to this idea. There's 60 million victims. 63 million people have died, human beings have died because of abortion. And those are the only ones that are done legally and counted. 63 million since 1974. But in the end, it doesn't change the truth that we're all made in the image of God. And God created man in his own image. And in the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. You're valuable, friends. You, sitting right here, you are valuable because of who you are according to the true story of reality, according to the way that the world really is. This isn't just a system of myths. This isn't a system of me standing up here trying to make you feel good. That's not my project. I don't care how you feel. I really don't. Because our feelings lie to us, guys. Because our heart is deceitfully wicked. Who can trust it is what the scripture says. So I'm not here to puff you up with good feelings and emotional speech. I'm here to tell you what's true. And according to the true story of reality, you guys, each and every one of you, are intrinsically valuable. And there's nothing that can take that value from you, not ever. Not ever, whether you're high or low. God loves you. And he's created you with a purpose and meaning, and there's nobody or no job, there's no boyfriend or girlfriend, no sport, nothing can take that value from you. This is who you are. This is who you are. This is who we all are as human beings. We're all made in the image of God. This is the true story of reality. This is the way that the world really is, and it gets better. Because you guys know who Jesus is. Because you guys claim the name of Christ, because you guys confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and you believe in your heart that he's been raised from the dead. Paul says that you shall be saved. And let me remind you of who you are before I leave you. Not only are you made in the image of God of infinite value and worth, but you are also conquerors. That's what the Bible describes you as, conquerors. Not through your own efforts and works, but through the efforts and the works of Jesus Christ, the only one who lived that perfect life that we should live, but we can't because of sin. And then he paid a price on the cross, dying a death that we deserve. And that price, we can't afford it. And then he was raised 3 days later, offering to us the guarantee of everlasting life with him, where we rule and reign in heaven. The Bible tells us, guys, young ones, the Bible tells us that everything God the Father gave to Jesus will one day be ours. What did God give to Jesus? Everything. We're given charge of angels. I'm going to be like, yo, Michael, go get me a Coke. I'm not really. Maybe I will. I don't know. But that's what we are in charge of angels. That's who we are. In reality, when I tuck my girls in at night, and I'm going to leave with this, I promise. This is so good, though. I pray over them most nights, right? And I bless you. And then I ask, who are you? You're made in the image of God. And then you say, I'm a real life princess. Why are you a real life princess? Because you're a daughter of the true king. Phoebe knows it. I put Joel on the spot. I say to my girls, you're a real life princess. Why? And they say, because I'm a daughter of the true king. That's true of us. Girls, that's who you are. That's where your satisfaction comes from. Men, guys, that's who you are. I mean, not princesses. But that's who you are. We're rulers, destined for heavenly reign. We're princes and princesses, sons and daughters of the true king. And once you've been introduced to the court of the king, the heavenly king, you can't be unintroduced. There's no returns on the economy of God. You are his and his forever because he purchased you at a price. And that price is Jesus. And it's in him we find our satisfaction. It's in him that we find our worth. And it's in him that we find our value. And it's in him that we chase after. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I appreciate it.